My name's Tom Martin and I farm on our mixed family farm here in Cambridgeshire, just west of Peterborough. And normally at this time of year we're used to rats and mice coming into or trying to come into the buildings. It's just something that happens at this time of year, and our normal programme of pest management typically enables us to stay on top of that. But this year seems to be the worst I've known. I really can't recall a time when we've had more rats, in particular rat pressure. And so we've reached out to Lodi to see if they can help us.
So we're here identifying there's quite a lot of rat holes, very active rat holes, fresh digging, underrunning concrete there, and obviously digging out some form of grain. If I was guessing, if we got 30 holes down there in a less than a 30-metre stretch, there could easily be 200 to 300 rats in this area, quite happily breeding and feeding and drinking. The quantity of rats that are here can cause tons of grain having to be discarded and thrown away because it's unfit for sale. Yeah, quite easily they can cause damage to the building, damage to roller shutter doors, chewing of the plastic underneath it. Worst case scenario, they start chewing electric cables and stuff, which can lead to fires and everything else. So there's a track coming all the way around the outside of this building, coming right the way round and then coming into here, coming out again and going into this undergrowth, and all this undergrowth here, back into there and up towards that maze has got a rat activity in it now. They're obviously finding a feed source somewhere in there and a liquid source from back over there. This water source here is where these rats from here are all taking their daily, well, more than daily, liquid. You can see all the rat footprints in again there that are right around this area, all trying to get liquid from that source there. The rats will drink roughly 2-3 times. They're a bit like a human really, they like to have a drink with most of their meals. You can see they're obviously not getting any food from here. This is purely a water source for them. That's purely where they're getting all their liquid from. All these tracks are all running to here, and then you can see the footprints leading right up to the edge of the water and just into the water. This is a common area on quite a lot of farms where you've got your spray cans and stuff waiting for disposal. Rats say this is fantastic. They're in the back of here making home, using it as an area to sort of get from A to B uncovered without breaking cover. They're coming around the corner from the holes through here and trying to get to the grain store to get their food another way, but this just gives them cover. If this was tidied away and moved, it becomes an open area, they're going to struggle or be less likely to want to come round to break cover. The rat to tell in a grain store will leave a tail mark because they drag the tails, and they'll literally leave a tail mark and then feet marks as they go in, but the tail mark will be quite prominent through the grain and you'll be able to see it where it's sitting. You'll see the tail mark. You won't see obviously feet mark and everything, but that dragged tail is the obvious sign. Mice are a lot more difficult to tell in the grain store. Generally you end up seeing them. We'll be using a bromidilone active ingredient to conform with the crew guidance to use a lower toxicity bait to see if we can get this rat problem under control. The grain formulation suits farms quite well because generally those rats are used to eating a grain-based diet. So if you can keep that grain base the same, they're quite likely to move from their existing grain to eat to the poison that we want them to eat in this grain. Preload some bait stations for placing down around the site. We have the grain tray in here, high infestation, sort of 50 to 100 grams of grain per bait station every sort of 5 meters around the building. We can get that nicely in there, and we label up with what is in this this bait station, and we tick. Then we've put bromidilone bait in here, so we'll just tick this and put bromidilone bait, job done. So now we've got all these bait stations filled up, labelled up and everything else. We'll go and start placing them down roughly 5 meter intervals. Placing bait stations a little bit hidden on somewhere that's reasonably flat, not where there's a lot of rat muck, rat drop-ins. I don't put bait stations there. I know the rats might spend a lot of time there, but that's a toilet, not a feeding area. I like to put them close-ish to holes, but not on top of holes, and not ideally placing the bait station on top of a rat run. If the rat is running along a channel, let it still run along that channel and put the bait station just off the edge of that run. The rat will still carry on, but the attractiveness of the bait inside will draw the rat to the bait station. If you put the bait station on top of the rat run, the rat will just disappear and go around that bait station and never go in it. It will take months sometimes to go in a bait station. So we're placing some bait stations around here. You'll notice that there's only probably a couple of meters or so between these 2 bait stations. The infestation in this close area here is quite high, so we can add more bait stations to this area. Get that there. So we can up the amount of bait that's safely placed in bait stations, trying to get the takes up, get the bait into them and get them dead, so we can remove those bait stations as quick as possible and put permanent ones in. For some of the outdoor burrows and rats on this site, we'll be using a cholecalciferol based product, something similar to the Harmlix bait. This is the only active ingredient that's licensed for outdoor use and burrow baiting. We quite like it. Obviously it's the crew code, but there's no toxicity to non-target species from eating rats, barn owls and the likes. Are quite safe with this bait. Still needs to be protected, and watch what you're doing with it. Obviously protect it in burrows, put it in bait stations, but a very good active. So the benefit of burrow baiting is getting them to eat it as quick as they can. The neophobia will change. They're quite happy, I'll say quite happy, but that bait's just there in front of them. There's a fair chance it's quite palatable. They'll eat it straight away. The only thing to watch out is if they do expel it, you must try and keep an eye on it and pick it all up. But they should take that bait pretty quickly with burrow baiting. When you go to bait stations, they're not normally as keen to go straight in the bait station. That's why bait stations need to be a permanent feature, not a semi-permanent feature. For this burrow baiting, we're using 4 or 5 sachets, so 80-100 grams down each hole. We need to get that amount. There's quite a high infestation here. You get them to eat them quick. I like to just cover the hole over just to sort of stop non-targets, and plus just deter the rat from coming out. He gets a little bit more hungry and eats the bait fractionally quicker with having no easy access. So it's not difficult to get out, but it just puts a bit of a fear in them that they're not coming straight out, but the bait is there to eat straight in the hole. So the burrow bait in here with Harmonix, we get sachets and we place down the hole, poke them down pretty much as far as you can down into the hole. on there, place in there, and then heel in. Oh. So in conclusion of here today, we've been baiting with jade, grain in bait stations and in and around the buildings, and we've got Harmonix bait in quite a lot of the burrows around the perimeter of the building. This should gain control in the next 7 to 14 days. We've used the grain in and around the grain store to keep the bait and the grain similar so the takes are quicker, and then we've used the Harmonix outside the cholecalciferol to bait the burrows, which is the quickest way of gaining control in an outdoor burrow.